Are you looking for good and factual conversation topics to have with your friends? And you just don't have the time to sit down and watch all the news? Don't worry, I'm here to tell you about everything you need to know about Africa today. Welcome back to What's Happening in Africa with Tanya. Hello again and welcome to your quick factual and short episode and update on what's happening in Africa today. If you haven't noticed, we have an Instagram, TikTok and YouTube Shorts channels to update you on what's happening in Africa in shorter videos, even though these videos are actually just about 8 minutes long at most. So just in case you want to share the videos or you want it to be quicker for your convenience, do not forget to link, follow and subscribe to those channels and those platforms. Today we'll start with exciting news from South Africa. On Monday, the first snowfall that has happened in over a decade fell in their largest city, Johannesburg. It is the winter season here in the southern hemisphere, and South Africa seems to be experiencing a hard time right now, with the weather going to dangerously low degrees this month. Fortunately, a little bit of joy was spread across Johannesburg when snowflakes were spotted falling from the sky on Monday morning. Few friends of mine sent a few videos of their backyards where the snow was falling all morning. These freezing temperatures are so depressing, but the snow was able to bring smiles to lots of people's faces, including the kids who were caught playing in the snow outside their classrooms. Snowflakes are a rare sight in Johannesburg, which is situated in South Africa's Gauteng province. The last time the city witnessed snow was back in 2012. As residents woke up to freezing temperatures, they couldn't help but share their joy on social media by posting captivating photos and videos of this extraordinary weather phenomenon. Fortunately, the South Africa Weather Service reported that no obstructions were made due to the snow. This cold weather unfortunately stayed on for the rest of the week, and we can still feel it now here in Zimbabwe. As you can see, my dress is slightly different. It is freezing cold, and hopefully you're keeping warm if you're in Southern Africa. Moving slightly north up the continent to Cote d'Ivoire, unfortunately, heavy rain has caused destruction still in weather news. Heavy rainfall in Cote d'Ivoire has caused the deaths of, sadly, 30 people since April, indicating an intensity in the raining season. The country's largest city, with a population of nearly 6 million, is frequently affected by torrential rains and flood. These rains have been most devastating in flood-prone areas where precariously constructed houses are being heavily affected by the large amount of rains and floods. The government plans to reinforce emergency risk services in these flood-prone areas and demolish informal settlements in these areas as well. Grand Bassam, a coastal town near Abidjan, has been severely affected in recent weeks. Efforts are being made to mitigate the risks, but sustained measures are needed to protect communities from the devastating impact of the heavy rains and floods in Cote d'Ivoire. These extreme weather conditions in both sides of the continent can be pointed to one common factor: global warming. We hope this sends an alert to those leaders who can make an impact and change the way that we use unsustainable resources. And on the topic of language and culture, a few people might know the language Kiswahili or Swahili in the African continent. A few days ago, a couple of countries in the continent celebrated Kiswahili Day. But today I would like to zero in my focus on the Zanzibar ministers and the work they're doing to maintain the cultural heritage of Kiswahili. Zanzibar ministers have emphasized the importance of promoting and using standard Kiswahili among young people, students, media, and artists. The Minister of Social Development, Elderly, Gender and Children, Ms. Riziki Pembe Juma, highlighted the significance of the State University of Zanzibar, SUZA, as a center for Kiswahili learning in East Africa. She stated that collaborations with other institutions in promoting and encouraging the language Kiswahili in these areas is going to help with the maintenance and the promotion of the language. Kiswahili, as I've previously mentioned, has gained recognition not only in Tanzania and Zanzibar, but in other nations as well. These nations include the Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda, and Kenya, where the language Kiswahili has been labeled the national language in each of these countries. It is an official language in certain activities of the East African Community and the African Union. Minister Riziki commended the decision of several African nations to incorporate Kiswahili in their education systems, highlighting its positive impact on promoting the language. Still in East Africa, in more unfortunate news, the protests in Nairobi, Kenya have claimed a few lives. In Nairobi, protests against the rising cost of living took a dangerous turn as police threw tear gas into a classroom, resulting in 53 hospitalized children. The demonstrations, which were turned deadly, were sparked by opposition groups opposing the controversial finance bill's tax hikes. Despite the ban on protests, citizens took to the streets demanding change and relief from their economic struggles. In the midst of this unrest, the opposition leader Raila Odinga has called for the reversal of these tax hikes and the civil disobedience that is happening in the nation. The authorities are also emphasizing the importance of lawful means to be used to reduce these disputes and protests. This situation reflects the mounting tension amongst the Kenyan people, with most of them being divided. Some of them are protesting because of high rates of living, and the others are afraid of the looting and the violence and the protests that are coming to Nairobi. Altogether, this just shows that the Kenyan people want a better future for them and their children and are hoping that this unrest ends and that they can live normal lives. Moving back down to Southern Africa in sports news, Zimbabwe is celebrating the lifting of the 18-month ban by FIFA. FIFA imposed the ban in February 2022 after the government in Harare attempted to take control of the Zimbabwean Football Association due to alleged financial discrepancies and failure to address cases of sexual abuse against female players. While the issue remains unsolved, FIFA chose to lift the ban as scheduled, allowing Zimbabwe to participate in the World Cup qualifiers beginning in Ivory Coast. The end of the ban is good news for Zimbabwean sports fanatics who have been witnessing the Warriors increase in popularity and in experience. The sports minister of Zimbabwe, Kirsty Coventry, expressed that this is a worthwhile sacrifice and that investigations will continue, but this will help bolster the nation and the sports division of the country. Kirsty Coventry states that this will benefit the country in the long run. Solomon Mudege, FIFA's manager for development programs in Africa, emphasized the need for open communication between FIFA and the government and the Zimbabwe Football Association to prevent further disruptions. Now that the ban is lifted, it is crucial that the government stop interfering in sports committees and that transparency is a priority throughout. With the suspension lifted, Zimbabwe will now go and compete for the World Cup qualifiers. And finally, in entertainment news, if you are someone who's prominent on Twitter, you probably saw the tweet that Sway Lee did that caused a lot of turmoil across the continent. Sway Lee, a popular American musician, posted on Twitter that he would like to incorporate some of his music with Amapiano. Whilst this sounds exciting and great for everyone who is a fan of Amapiano, he mistakenly quoted the Nigerian flag instead of the South African flag where Amapiano originates. This, of course, caused a lot of disruption and a lot of anger amongst the South Africans. This mistake sparked a lot of uproar on social media, but thankfully Sway Lee was quick to correct himself and explain that he respects all music, African or not, across the board and respects the originators of Amapiano. He also interestingly added that he has Nigerian heritage, and as Africans, we accept anyone who is willing to accept their mistake and address that all African music is not always the same and is not from one big chunk of a continent. Africa is a very diverse, interesting and exciting place with different genres of music, different topics, different weathers, and different people in general and different languages. All of it comes together in a beautiful bundle of African nature and African beauty. Thank you once again for watching What's Happening Africa with me, Tanya. This has been, of course, Tanya, very cold and freezing, and hoping that you're staying warm during this winter. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, follow. Go and follow all the other pages, including Instagram and TikTok, and also YouTube Shorts. For some reason, people really like that. Have a lovely week and goodbye.